welcome to my channel. My name is Lisa Alastuey, and on this channel, you will find a variety of inspirational and informational videos. So if that sounds good to you and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Today, my guest is John Gray, who is the author of the most well-known and trusted relationship book of all time, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. In addition, Dr. Gray has written over 20 books. His most recent book is Beyond Mars and Venus. In his Mars and Venus book series, it has changed the way that men and women have viewed their relationships. Welcome, John.
Thank you so much. Happy to be with you again.
Awesome, awesome. This is actually our second video, and I'll be linking our first video down in the description box for you guys to check that one out. So I'm glad to have you back on the channel again.
I'm happy to be here.
Yes, yes. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about some of the generational differences in dating and marriage. I have my own hypothesis and observations when I think across the different generations and how people are approaching dating and marriage. And I was wondering, kind of like a take that you have on it.
Well, first, I want to hear yours.
Okay, so the different generations, for those that don't know, we have the traditionalist silent generations, and those are the ones born between 1928 and 1945. So this is more of those that grew up during historical events like World War II and the Great Depression. They had a lot of value for hard work, loyalty, respect for authority, and they tended to be more conservative in the family and social values. And they're also less technologically savvy today. Then the next generation is the baby boomers, which my mom falls under. And those are born roughly between 1946 and 1964. And some historical events for them during their times was the civil rights movement, the sexual revolution. Some of the things that they valued was career advancement, job stability. And oftentimes they value relationships that are face-to-face communication. They also experienced an advent of television programming and advancements in technology. Then the next generation is my generation, which is Generation X, and those are those individuals born between 1965 and 1980. We were known as the latchkey generation. We typically had more widespread divorce than the previous generations. We also had dual income households where both parents might have worked out of the house. We were skeptical of authority than maybe previous generations. We also embraced personal computers, video games, and the internet during our era. The next generation is the millennials. Those are those individuals born between 1981 and 1996. And this is the coming of age digital era. This generation values a work-life balance, personal development, social responsibility. They're very tech savvy and socially conscious. They embrace diversity, inclusivity, equality, and also environmentally maybe aware more so than previous generations. And then the latest generation of those dating and marrying is Generation Z. And those are individuals born between 1997 and 2012. We call them the digital natives because they basically have grown up with technology in their hand. So they have a lot of fluency in social media, instant communication, digital creation. They definitely value individual expression, social justice causes. They also tend to be more pragmatic when it comes to career prospects and also economic uncertainty. But basically, those are the different generations. So I think it colors a lot, like the time that you grow up in and how you maybe approach your dating and your marriage relationships.
Wow.
Just had to get a quick little rundown of each generation.
Oh, that all makes sense to me. I've witnessed it all. I did, my parents were born in 1920, so they were that generation, and I came along as a baby boomer. Yeah, so now let me put that in the context of what's happened today.
Mm-hmm.
So from the time of the baby boomers, where more people were getting married in the baby boomer generation. If you compare the baby boom generation to now, what we have is dissatisfaction in marriage. this is just fact. What we have is so much divorce. But that was the generation before now, so much, one of the ones before. After the baby boomers, then the next one started having more divorce. So now divorce was 50% of couples who get married. Now that's already devastating because now you have children who are growing up in homes, we'll call them broken homes, because the split, the two people that made them are not there. So there's a split. And so little girls didn't have fathers and didn't know how great men can be and how you can interact with men and how men can be so loving. They didn't have that. They don't have an experience of that. Little boy doesn't have a picture of what a man is, who is caring, considerate, devoted, self-sufficient, reliant, problem solver, and confident. You know, all those qualities is what you get of a man in the baby boom generation, basically. And you got it more in the earlier generation. More masculinity was very defined then. Even in my baby boomer generation, we're starting to move out of that because the opportunities shifted to where women could be, well, you had birth control. Birth control was the big thing that changed, okay? Once birth control came in, then there was no logical reason why a woman shouldn't have sex with a man. See, if you didn't have birth control, when a man wants to, men want to have sex, okay, through all of them, okay, men want sex. It's biological. Our sex center is twice as big. Sex produces testosterone. If a woman is willing to have sex with a man, his testosterone levels go up. Ironically, even if she doesn't love him or care about him in the beginning, his testosterone will go up. Men need to make at least 10 times more testosterone than women. And sex is one of the easy ways to produce testosterone. Another one, having a job, working hard, doing things that other people don't want to do, doing things that are difficult, do things that are risky, fight or flight, such situations. Like driving a car, for example. While I don't feel stressed when I'm driving a car, but I'm always in danger. There's just no question about that. The car is the most dangerous thing you can do. We just sort of imagine that it's safe, but you're going into an intersection, you're assuming these other people are going to stop, and they don't always. So the threat of life is, but to man, that's easy. And he can easily forget. He goes, I'm in charge here. I've got the wheel and the brakes. And some women love driving as well, but you'll see majority of married couples in the baby boomer time, men would drive. Sitting in a car, if you have a man you can trust, he drives well, you can relax. You feel someone's protecting you. So the car is dangerous. We're using that as an example, but it's a good example because as a marriage counselor, what you find out is a lot of arguments start in the car. A lot of arguments start in the car. And when I look around and I see, I'm just going to give my interpretation, which isn't true for everyone at every time. But when you see the woman driving the man today, what you already know is from my experience of what really goes on in marriages, that man used to drive and his wife gave so much information. You should do this. The light turned green. You should go turn that way. How could you miss that turn? And she gets upset about this. And so the man says, well, if you want to drive, then you drive. And so she gets in the steering wheel. And once again, she's going to be making testosterone on that drive. And he's going to be over there relaxing in the front seat. And he's going to be making estrogen. Estrogen is a man's downfall. Whenever a man is angry, his estrogen is surging. Whenever a man is sad, his estrogen is surging. Whenever a man doesn't feel motivated, his estrogen is surging. Unless his testosterone is also surging. So the idea here, as human beings, what we want, and kind of you look at the whole most recent generation of kids, is they want to be both masculine and feminine. Okay? They want that. They just don't know how to get there. Because I remember back in the 60s, as a baby boomer, when the rock and roll stars and the Beatles and everybody grew their hair out. Now that's very feminine to grow your hair out. And it's very masculine to have short hair. That's how it's always been. And there's something about having beautiful hair. You look more beautiful. Okay, it's beautiful. and you have to take care of it. You know, when I grew my hair out, but after a while, I went, boy, it's hard to take care of that beautiful hair you've got. this is easy. You know, I just go and have them shave it off. And why that's masculine, if I can put it that way, is inside of men that we have this tendency that goes along with testosterone. Testosterone says, let me get from A to B as fast as possible. Okay. And men do have, on general, in the test, men have much faster reaction time than women. This is testosterone. A woman with high testosterone may have high testosterone. But see, when you look at women with high testosterone, really high, they can't make babies. You know, we have 30% of women who can't make babies. This is because when your masculine side is so high, you're not going to be so feminine. The idea is how to balance the two, which is I have a masculine side, but I also have a feminine side.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to work, and I'm not saying women shouldn't go to work, although I am saying from my point of view, women should not be going to work when they have babies. A baby needs to be with their mother. No one's going to love that baby more than the mother. And we need to create space for that. And we have a culture that does not allow that. It's tough. You know, it's a difficult situation, but at least I can bring happiness into marriages, and I do it every day, which is when a woman is stressed, what we know biologically, the stress hormone, let me just say this, when you have the stress hormone being produced, for a man or a woman, your brain only looks at the negative. You can't see the positive. That's biology. We have one part of our brain, the left part of my prefrontal cortex, only sees the good. And the right part of my prefrontal cortex only sees the bad. As human beings, to evolve, to make better, we have to see what's wrong, and then we have to see how to solve it. I see that's the whole situation. But when you're in a stress state, your brain only looks at what's wrong. Danger, 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 danger. So now we want to, and when you're in a relationship and you're not feeling at ease and comfortable and happy in your life, it's really hard to be successful. What way my wife and I talk about it is she has a love bank and I have a love bank. And if there's $1 million in the love bank, then if I do something that's upsetting to her, it's like she has to write a check for $1,000. But the love bank has so much you don't even notice it. And right now, most women's love bank is almost empty. See, and if you look at this biologically, the love bank is your hormones. Okay, you can just see women's happiness going up and down based upon their hormonal balance. And it's not just estrogen, it's also progesterone. Mm-hmm. In my extended book on these hormones, it goes into great detail, but simply put, whenever you feel safe, okay, that's oxytocin gets produced in your body. When you feel safe, then you feel I can depend on help. Okay, I can depend on you. If you don't feel safe, you won't ask for help. And you don't think somebody's going to give it to you. And I shouldn't ask for that, or I shouldn't want that, or I don't deserve that. So many obstacles to keep women from asking. One of the biggest challenges for women is how to ask their partners for support. When you're not getting what you need, you ask for it. But women haven't been taught how to ask in a way that motivates a man to say yes. And what women do is what historically people did, is they complained. Now, every complaint tends to give men the message that he's done something wrong, and that lowers his testosterone. But if you ask, it can raise his testosterone if what he can do for you is within his range of I can do it. Okay, so you have to find the request. But anytime a woman asks for something and it's something a man can do, he has the energy to do, he has the confidence to do, he says, and don't think about willingness. You got married, so he's already willing if he can. So just if he can do it, if he can do it, it's within his range, he has the time to do it or the energy to do it. Men will always immediately, if you ask them and you let them know that as a woman, I often feel a little insecure that you don't love me as much as in the beginning. I know you love me. See, you have to acknowledge, I know you love me, but it's my issue. I start to feel like
insecure.
Yeah. So that's a big problem for women on their male side to share with their partner, I'm feeling insecure. Because if a man was to say, I'm feeling insecure, a woman's kind of like, well, hold on, somebody's got to be able to do this. And that's one of the great things about me as a husband, for example, is I have my own insecurities, but I handle them myself. I don't need help to handle my insecurities. But for a woman, if she has insecurities, if she can share those with her partner, he immediately will help her if he understands what to do. That's where you have to educate them. So you say to a man, honey, you know, sometimes you're just so amazing. I start to feel insecure, and maybe you're working hard, and I'm doing my thing, but then I start to be afraid that you don't love me as much. And I know you do. So I want to do this little game with you that I'm going to do every day, and it'll make me feel really good. And it will only take 30 seconds. Now, what's a man going to say to that?
Sure. What's the game?
Game. And the game is, even though I know you love me, I'm going to say, do you love me? And he's going to say, yes. And then I'm going to say, how much do you love me? And he's going to say, with all my heart. And you're teaching him. Now, you can't say, of course I love you. Or why would you ask such a foolish question? The point is a simple, straightforward script, which is positive. It can be enhanced, of course. But it's so sweet the way when I have people in my classes and I have a woman do this to her husband. So, do you love me? Yes. How much do you love me? All my heart. We give them in some words. And then do you think I'm beautiful? Oh my God, you're so beautiful, honey. You're the most beautiful. I love you so much. See, words express feelings, but when you express words, the feelings behind those words come up for men. If you know, I love my wife, but we do this every day. When men walk around, we're not feeling in love all the time. You think I'm solving problems and fixing a car, whatever. I'm in love. I'm feeling love. Women don't understand men, because if you have more estrogen, you feel love all the time, like a mother of a baby. My daughter, Lauren, has a little baby. She's just like, she's in wow all the time. A baby is this incredible creature. It's just so amazing for her to be able to raise this child. And fortunately, she has a context where she can spend most of her days with the child. I feel sad for other mothers who can't. It's such an amazing experience for her and for the child to have the mother be present. You know, life is filled with problems. We have to deal with them, but we should always lean in the direction of buying a smaller house and having the man work while she is taking care of that child. Now, you know, in Europe, they have some awareness that the child needs a parent. So the government pays women. Okay. Now, as soon as the government pays women, then the man doesn't have ownership. There's a thing about for masculinity is to feel I did that. And the more there's government intervention, men become lazy. If I don't have to do it, I won't do it. This is the reality of masculinity. When something I have to do happens, our testosterone goes up and we feel great. You know, this happened for me. Just give examples. 2 weeks ago, my business partner died, and when I find out all the books, a lot of the money that I put over there is gone. Okay, so I don't have the same lifestyle ability that I had 2 weeks ago in terms of cash flow coming in my life and so forth.
Wow, I'm sorry.
So right away, I created a new business. I'm now, it's a really great business, and my wife loves it. She's amazed by it. And so, and
It
you know,
created that testosterone.
yes, it just came up. And, you know, I've even asked her, why do I want to do this? Certainly my wife wants to do this business. She's been wanting to do it for a while, but now I'm going to do it for her, help set it up so she can do this business. And it's going to be huge income. I figured it out. I know how to do business. But I would never have been motivated to do it. You know, I'm 72 years old. I'm happy with my life. I've made it. I've done it. I'm validated, whatever. You know, this I do because I just want to help people. I just want to help people. And that whenever you help people, that means you're providing something for them that they needed that will help them. Testosterone goes up. If you see me an hour ago, I'm fasting, no food in my body, no energy. You can see how suddenly the energy just flows because my testosterone goes up. So much is hormonal of what we go through. So if a woman's on her male side, she's going to start thinking more like a man, reacting more like a man, but she's not nurturing her female side. And it would be embarrassing for her to share her insecurities. So coming back to this technique, just so people have a walk away, you explain to your partner, this is just to increase my female hormones. Okay, that's it. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. How much do you love me? With all my heart. Do you think I'm beautiful? I think you're so beautiful. Are you happy you're married to me? Are you happy with me? Are you happy to be dating me? Whatever it is, you need to feel that vulnerability. It's very feminine to be that vulnerable. because you're trusting a man to say the right things. And you tell him, don't say the wrong things. You're just supposed to say the wrong things. And even if you don't fully feel it, I don't care. Just say the words. Because I'm telling you a secret that women don't know about men. As soon as I say those words, I have to defend those words. I put it out. When I say what's inside of me, I say, yes, I love you. Then suddenly my brain, who's the brain going, I don't know if I want to be in this relationship, whatever, that gets canceled out because I said, I love you. And I said, but it's 10 times more in my experience if she asks for it. You see, if she asks for it, it's like she's revealing a part of her that needs to hear that. And every married couple, in the beginning, he says those things all the time. He stops saying them. Why do men stop saying it? You should know. We think you should know. And so
I'm
he
showing
stops.
you through actions. Why do I have
I'm
to?
showing you through my action, and he should show us through his actions, no question about it. But words are powerful in this context where she needs to hear. And women's arousal starts in the ears. It starts up here. You know, it's conversation, it's talking, and if he's not showing you through actions, then words are cheap. But he shows through actions. Then she does this process. And even if he's not doing all the actions, this will give him the motivation to start doing the actions. I'm telling you, on an emotional level, men do not feel emotion, typically positive, reassuring emotion, unless you ask for it. And lots of men have told me doing this technique that they'll often say, you know, the woman, I explained the, well, he says that stuff all the time. He says that stuff all the time. And I say, yeah, it doesn't have any effect. That's because you're not asking for it. I'm just telling women, asking it is spreading your legs, basically. It is opening up. And so many women, if you just shower loving words on them, then words are cheap. I want action. But if she opens up and says, do you love me? Because she's feeling that, you know, she's feeling you don't love me, and I need reassurance that you do love me, and your actions haven't fully done it. So this is another way where two souls can connect. And it's the woman. See, she doesn't realize the woman gives men power. The woman gives men power. Women turn men on. It's that simple thing. She turns me on. Now, that's just the reality of the situation. If a woman doesn't feel beautiful inside, it's very hard for a man to get turned on to her. You know, this is why I help couples where the man can't have erections. So many over 40, so many men have to take Viagra and whatever. It's because the women are not feeling vulnerable to share. Do you still love me? Do you still think I'm beautiful? Women are so harsh on their body, and it makes it's a huge thing. You still attracted to me? My wife said, well, honey, you know, I've gained a little weight. Do you still love me? Oh, honey, I love you so much. But men have to know you can't say anything like, well, you could go to the gym more often, or if you wouldn't be such an ex, I could love you more. No, this is not to be spoken. So she gives him basically the script. When he does the script, what I know as a man, when I say something, I feel behind it, and my brain reorganizes to have the energy to do that, to have the feelings to do that. Now, as far as men and testosterone, I tell men every day, you should have a schedule, you should have a goal, you should write down your goals. Every motivational class for success and whatever, write down your goals. Now, why is that? Because when you write down your goal, you know where you want to go, and here are the steps to get there. Your brain organizes all this. It does all this, and it makes testosterone to give you the energy to get to that goal. It's amazing what we don't understand about how men and women are so designed differently, and how many problems come about by not understanding those differences. So when you're to ask me the question about generations, what's happening now is an evolution of consciousness. Evolution occurs. People are more conscious. People are more aware. Even in the 60s, when the Beatles, European invasion, the women were all screaming. I saw the Beatles, and a huge thing. Women were screaming, and my wife said, John, they were having orgasms. They just didn't know that. I mean, they were fainting and all kinds. Their estrogen levels were off the chart. Part of it was the newness of all that, but it was also the Beatles, particularly, were the big ones. They were four guys who only they sang about love songs. You know, they weren't saying get the bitch and whatever. They were all about love. And, you know, it was so sweet. I want to hold your hand. It was very sweet. It was very sweet. And that gave women a sense of safety, a huge amount of oxytocin being produced. And They had more feminine haircut. There was, but not too much, not like today. It was just actually just a little longer than I had at the time. But most of their songs, they're harmonizers. They were masters of harmony. They could harmonize their voices. Nobody figured this out. Why were the Beatles so great? Because they sang in harmony again and again, and love songs. This was just stimulated huge amounts of hormones in women. It was a conscious breakthrough. Women, suddenly their surges of estrogen came up. And now, as a result of that, then to find balance, they went over to their male side. So we have this thing about the male and female side. Think of it like pendulums going back and forth. If I go way to my male side, then I can't wait to come home and make love with my wife, which is going to my female side. She is my female side. See, that's what happens when you have sex. You connect with her most vulnerable self. But I'm over here but maintaining my masculinity. So I have to keep an erection. I have my erection. I'm there for her. It's for her. Men have to be educated on how to provide that kind of support for women. They have no idea. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. It's just like nothing for her, and it's nothing for him. But what happens is your sexual potency, your masculinity, every time you masturbate or you go online and do porn, you dissipate all of your masculine energy. Okay, your masculine radiance, so to speak. Fortunately, in my 20s, I was a celibate monk. So I actually followed the rules and didn't masturbate. So I had these huge spiritual experiences. And then when I came out from being a monk and I had lots of sex, but with women I really didn't know that well. Each time I had sex, at least it wasn't porn, I didn't masturbate, but each time I had sex with them, this huge consciousness that I have goes down about half. I went, whoa, I really lost a lot with that, ejaculating into a woman that doesn't love me. And then I married my wife, Bonnie, and I have all the sex. It never goes away. I always have my spiritual self. And that's called sex with love. Sex without love dissipates your spirituality. It dissipates your happiness, your life force energy. Practically speaking, on a very gross but physical level, men's testosterone levels go down. So with each generation, men's testosterone levels have significantly gone down, and women's fertility has significantly gone down. And this tells me we're going in the wrong direction. And yet there's this consciousness. The good thing about this is like the consciousness I had after the Beatles and rock and roll. I got kicked out of high school because I wanted to grow my hair. I refused to cut my hair. I'm telling you, it was so amazing experience for me to sort of break the boundaries of traditional masculinity and grow my hair out. And, you know, in the summer of love in the 60s and Woodstock and all that stuff, getting high. It was just breaking all the boundaries and doing what you like. So when you do what you like, one of the songs I remember I liked was just do what you like, do what you like, do what you like, do it. That was the 60s. Do what you like. But when you do what you like, doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, you do what you like. So whenever you do what you enjoy doing, you're on your female side. This people don't understand that. When I'm eating ice cream, I like ice cream. I'm on my female side. Now, no problem going to my female side, but not too much. You know, one bowl of ice cream is different from 3 bowls of ice cream, right?
Right.
So when men go to their female side, doing what they like as opposed to doing what they have to do. You can go to your female side and do what you like, no problem, to be a happy, healthy man if you first did what you have to do. See, that's the thing. What you do to be successful, what you do, what your goals are to be responsible, to do the right thing. You know, this is what masculinity is all about. Femininity has a male side for sure. She wants to do the right thing. But when women are happy and fulfilled, they're also doing what they like to do. They're doing things where they have help and they feel supported. When a woman feels help and supported and also what she likes to do, she makes a lot of female hormones. And, you know, when I talk about since my daughter has this baby, I just watch, she's glowing. I mean, she's never been happy in her life. This is my daughter. I'm so happy for that. You know, she has a lifestyle where her needs, particularly, she doesn't have to make money or anything like that. She has the support of her husband. She also has a good father as well, helps out. I go to help take care of things, also can buy things for them. So this awakens in women this beautiful, nurturing female gene that loves completely giving to a child without feeling I'm draining myself of energy. And why? because she has someone on the outside taking care of her needs. So she's full of receiving what she needs so she can freely give to the child. But
Mhm.
if your love bank is not full, then every time you're giving, you're draining it and draining it and draining it. And so it's a burden. And so many women feel it's a burden. Everything's a burden. Having a man in your life, women think is a burden
Right.
instead of like realizing
Well, what
salvation.
I'm seeing in the younger generation is that they're delaying marriage. They're delaying having kids. They're working on their careers first. So when you compare that to like your generation, like a baby boomers who got married, had kids quicker, sooner, you're seeing this huge gap because of these shifts that are happening.
Well, let me address that as well. What you have is uh, an elevated consciousness. Now, we know in nature, you can make this conclusion, which is the more evolved the creature is, the longer they have a period of development. Maturity takes long. So the higher the consciousness, the longer level of maturity. So if you look at people from that generation born in the 20s, you look at pictures of them, they're 18-year-old flight attendants that look like they're grown women, and
They look older.
they look way older, and look at me, I'm 73 years old. I do not look like 73-year-olds in the past. Okay.
I'm
I go to
50.
Yeah, you look like a little young spring chicken, 28 years old.
Yeah.
So, aging has all changed because we have a higher consciousness. It takes longer for us to mature. So when the kids started waiting to get married, I celebrated. I said, great, because you want to give yourself chance to go through that period of maturing of self-sufficiency, where you feel self-sufficient. And part of that is education through your 20s. It's part of having relationships, but not having children ideally, because when a woman has children, a shift takes place where you make the children more important than you. And then later on, you kind of feel like I've made everybody important in my life and nobody but me, and you're resentful about life. So part of maturity, I mean, as a mature person, primarily my happiness comes from giving and taking care of. That's a
Mhm.
mature person. In a sense, a very selflessness. I can care less about anything for me to a certain extent. I have the practicality. I have to make money for me. I have to do this so I can take care of my family, my wife, my children, and all that, and the world. So that's maturity. I think also kids are going in the wrong direction. They're being fed this fear porn about the world is going to die. And, this is back in the 80s. They said we're going to be floods everywhere by the 90s. This is our other
Acid
20s.
rain.
Acid rain, all this stuff. Bad stuff is happening, no doubt. Okay, bad stuff. But that's not their job in their 20s. Their job is to get a job and be self-sufficient. And so you're not needy by the time you get to like 28. 28 tends to be a profound year, could be around 27, 28, 29. That's when your brain fully develops. Okay, your prefrontal cortex does not develop until you're in that age. Now, maybe it developed in previous generations when you were 21, because there was a big shift, 21 years old. Okay, kids, go out and do it. It's up to you, but my children were not ready at 21. I mean, they still needed a strong safety net from dad. And I supported that because they take longer to mature. But it seems to be right now with our brains, the way our bodies are, 28 is my opinion, the time to start beginning looking for a mate. You can do it in the beginning just to develop relationship skills, and maybe you find the right person then, but something happens. If you look at the number of divorces, the highest period of time right now and for the last 20 years, the highest number of people getting divorced tend to be in that range of 28 years old. 27, 28, 29. So a flood of divorces come in because people were getting married before then, because you don't have the maturity before then to be in a marriage. To be ready to actually share your life with someone, you have to learn how to be happy first. You have to have the ability to fill your love tank. Okay. I mean, your love box, your bank, your bank is full. I'm a happy person. I was so lucky to have been a monk. Just learning, I didn't have to think about anything except learning how to be happy. So I've learned how to be happy. I can be happy without, my wife can not give me what I want or upset me. She can upset me, but I can go meditate and come back to being happy. Who we are, they say self-realization. Who we are is happy. Who we are is loving. Who we are is compassionate. Who we are is brilliant. Who we are is worthy. That's what self-realization is that experience of your soul, who you are. And then we lose touch with that when we get in an argument or a fight, but then later on we go, gee, I wish I hadn't said that, hadn't done that. That's because we forgot who we were. And so the journey of life is to continue being who we are, and then sharing. It's another thing, how to share everything with somebody else, okay? Because we have expectations and disappointments and whatever. And what I found, particularly in couples, male-female relationships, not understanding the differences causes a lot of unnecessary conflict. If you're in a gay relationship, you don't have so much conflict, and that's like heterosexuals. Okay. And a gay relationship, you kind of understand, me with another man, I know what he's thinking all the time. I accept it. I accept myself. Two women together feel safe because they can understand each other. So there's that benefit over there, and that's quite appealing to people. And so that's one thing. The big challenge for the soul, if you're heterosexual, is how can I find and love my partner's feminine characteristics that maybe are not the same as mine? Because by loving her female side, my own female side awakens. So here's my interpretation. I'm not a genetics master. I've studied it, but I have my way of interpreting it. We all know this is standard science. The primary difference between males and females is the Y chromosome. And the Y chromosome differentiates you from a male. You'll get a penis. And if you don't have the Y chromosome, you'll get a vagina. But for the first 3 weeks, we're all the same. Okay, we're all girls, basically. There are no male babies until about 3 weeks to 4 weeks. And what happens is one change, that Y chromosome around that time releases or activates 23 genes that men have that women don't have. Women have all the masculine genes. They have all the female genes. But men had all the female genes and the masculine genes, except these extra 23 override certain female genes. It's an overriding, it's a repressing, it's a suppressing, so that I can't access those female genes myself. However, by loving a woman, love is a oneness. By loving a woman, I can access those lost female genes. See, through her. This is why men get turned on by women. We feel whole when a woman is loving us. And we may not define it as love. We feel great. And particularly if we have a romantic relationship, we feel really great when she's loving us. We can also feel really great doing porn, but it's fantasy. So what happens is the primitive part of the brain doesn't have this logic and everything. It doesn't know that that's fake. He goes online, he sees 36,000 women who all want to have sex with him. The brain thinks I'm a king. And so the energy goes, but there's no energy coming back. Okay, that woman doesn't love him. They all don't love him. And so he releases all his energy out, and now his love bank is empty. And so this is, I can see it in their faces. They don't have vitality. They don't have radiance. And you can see who's doing it more. If you understand the feeling of having your love bank be full, you can just see it. And it's a tragedy because porn is massively addictive. And the same is true for women in a different way. All the sex toys is depending on robots to stimulate you rather than the love energy of your partner. See, sex is making love. And I've read all these sex books, not all of them, but lots of them. I've written my own bestseller, Mars, Venus in the Bedroom. And it gives, from my point of view, the most enlightened perspective. I would just look at it from my point of view. Maybe not everybody thinks that, but the primary perspective of, I can't say all, but most sex books that I've looked at is always how to increase your pleasure. That is so narcissistic. Is how do you increase pleasure, or even how do you increase your partner's pleasure? It's all goal oriented. Like we're trying to stimulate the biggest orgasm, the fastest experience, the most intense thing. What do we have to do? Now, in there are some good techniques without a doubt, but the whole orientation, if you're seeking to increase pleasure, you're not making love. You love the pleasure, but you're not necessarily feeling love to your partner. So my concept is you have sex, you're stimulating your body in a sexual way, which produces pleasure. And particularly for men, when they feel pleasure, they feel more. See, this is when men feel the most, is when they're doing something that produces pleasure. Alcohol for some men produces pleasure, so their estrogen levels go up. Any of these drugs that people take are producing pleasure, many of them pleasurable or ecstatic or whatever. That helps men to feel more. But feeling more, if you're not sharing it, is what's the point of it? So they just want more and more pleasure to keep the feeling going, rather than as soon as you're feeling pleasure, for the man to focus on, why am I wanting to have pleasure? Because it helps me to feel. And what I can now feel is how much I love my partner. And so at that time, while making love, you've already practiced outside the bedroom. The woman says, do you love me? And he says, yes. And he'll feel 10 times more of the love because he's got so much more feeling.
Yep.
And that's the whole point of this little exercise outside the bedroom. Her vulnerability turns on a man. It turns on his ability to feel. Because if she asks these vulnerable questions, I have to be very considerate and caring once I understand the purpose of this. Kind of a ground. Go ahead.
You know, like just how addictive like porn is, and especially with like AI, virtual reality, sex robots, all the things that they're going to try to sell to the next generation. And we're already seeing a problem with it because men use it more than women. You have a lot of women that are maybe not satisfied, and men are temporarily satisfied and turning to porn because it's easier, it's cheaper, it doesn't cost any money, and they have sex, but with porn.
Yeah, you can look at so much evidence about this. Japan is the best example. Japan has always had the highest percentage of people using porn, the males using porn. 30% of the males never want to get married, never want to be in a relationship with a woman. They can just do their masturbation and they're done. And they're weak. They're called soft men. I think that's what they're called. I taught many courses in Japan. The women are all like men, so many of them, not all, but very, very masculine. And because they have to be, because there's no men to carry that polarity. There are men there, okay, but there's a majority of the younger generation who just are addicted to their masturbation, to their fake women, to their toys. And of course, Japan is right at the top of creating robots to have sex with you. This is actually an ancient story. It's the story of Don Juan or Casanova, whichever one it was. He traveled around with women after women after women, never having a lasting relationship. But there was one woman in the beginning that he was really in love with, but then he lost his attraction because they didn't have the skills to keep it there. So then he went from one woman to another. A new woman, new skin is like a version of pornography. Okay. It's fantasy. You know, she doesn't really love him. She doesn't know him. How can you fully love someone without knowing them? You go through all the hurdles of relationship. You can actually discover real love and get through it. So he goes through all these women, and in the end of his life, he goes back to the woman he really felt love for. And she said, no, Don Juan, you have the ability, and many men have this ability. I know I have this ability, so I related to it, is that when I'm with a woman in a sexual experience, I can make her feel like she's the only woman in my world. Okay, men become hyper-focused. They can just, I love you so much. You're just so great. You're so wonderful. And she says, I'm not going to be fooled by that. So I'm not going to be with you. He says, no, but I really do love you. I've been with all these women, but you're the one for me. She says, no. And in the movie of Don Juan, they end up showing him in bed with a puppet. You know, it was like, because that's what and he was dissatisfied with his life because he made so much sex without love. He hadn't grown in love. And when I talked about the love bank, which is so many times where a woman has experienced needing help and a man helps her. So many times when a woman wanted to say what she's thinking, but she didn't feel safe, she loses energy. But when she feels completely safe to express herself, to be able to ask for help and get help, what will happen is her love bank gets so full. And then things he does when he doesn't do what she thinks he should be doing, it doesn't matter so much. How do you fill a man's love bank? The most important thing for a man's love bank to be completely full is a great sex life. That's it. A sexually satisfied man with his wife will never leave her. He'll never stray. He'll always want to be with her. It's all for men, primarily about sex, because it's through sex that men can fully open their heart. Now, if a man says, it's not about sex for me, okay, I'll go with that. You can feel lots of love, but your testosterone is not high enough to experience what you really could experience. See, being able to make love with your wife, not make love with anybody else, particularly because you don't want to make love with anybody else. You're so satisfied with your wife. But when you can be monogamous in a relationship, it's the monogamy. I mean, he has to do stuff. He has to be able to learn how to make love. He has to also, outside the bedroom, provide the kind of support where she can open up like that. But again, to feel deeply in love with your partner, you have to feel, and men always are limited in that capacity. And the only time they actually can't, if they don't have this strong masculinity in a relationship with a woman, then what happens is they can go over and feel, they go to their female side and they become drug addicts, sex addicts, passive, unmotivated, irritable, grumpy, complaining. That's what happens when men are too much on their feeling side. It's like my whole message is you don't ask men what they're feeling. You ask men what they think about something. He shouldn't be talking about his feelings until he's feeling really good. Then he can talk about good feelings, how much I love you, how happy I am in my life, what a great job it was. And every woman, we've been completely conditioned that everybody has to talk about feelings. And then, of course, the woman who doesn't talk about feelings ends up wanting to know what he feels until he actually becomes more feminine and starts complaining about his life. Then she really doesn't want to know what he's feeling. And then she feels a little guilty because, you should always pamper someone's feelings. We become this way feeling place. And that's part of this generational thing, which is psychology has said, yeah, we need to be on our feeling side. And I'm telling you, my female side, when I first went there at the time of Woodstock and everybody getting high and all these things, my hair out, I wore beads, I had fancy boots, cared about how I looked so much, I was on my female side and it felt great because it was the movement from the pendulum from the male side to the female side. This was evolution. I'm now becoming more whole, but then I got stuck there. And women have evolution. When you feel like unleashed, I don't have to depend on a man. I can do it myself, whatever. Oh, you just feel so great. Your power feeling. Now you're over there in this powerful place and you're wondering after a while, hey, why am I single? Why am I not happy? Why am I depressed? Why am I taking sleeping pills? When I was in, I forget, in Brazil, when I was in Brazil in the capital city there, Pablo, whatever it is, my memory's not working perfect because I'm 5 days into a fast, but
Wow.
it's just a city of complete congestion and stress. It takes so long to get anywhere. I couldn't believe what a place it was, at least the part of it that I was in. I don't know what the rest of the parts, so I'm sure there's wonderful places in Brazil, but that's where I was. But I was at a medical conference speaking and hearing other talks of other doctors, and they were saying 95% of women were taking sleeping pills, taking a drug to fall asleep, which is not healthy for you. I mean, if you can't sleep, okay, but you should find out your lifestyle so you can sleep. And, for many women, they lay their head down and they're just thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. And for many women, when they lay down to have sex, they're just thinking and thinking. They can't get into their body for the blood flow to go where it needs to go. So they can't really enjoy it. This is all because women are more on their male side and they don't have a man to help them come back to their female side. Historically, again, generations, because women couldn't make money, women didn't have the opportunities for education. Women were mostly pregnant all the time. So it wasn't like we said you can't do it, although we did as men. But that was a culture. When you have babies, you need to be with those babies, but it wasn't as bad as today. I just want to say other women were all at home with babies. So there was a lot of community to support you. When I go to some indigenous cultures, I'm staying in my hotel room and I'm looking at 50 women all walk together, talking all the time, carrying their children playing as they go down to the river in order to wash the clothes. And that was their activity. That was one of their major jobs, is washing the clothes. And they were having a time with it. They weren't going, oh my God, I have to wash clothes. I have to hire somebody, but I need a cleaners for that, because they don't have time. They're on their male side and they don't have the hormones that actually enjoyed cleaning something. If you go back to the 60s, there'd be these movies where women would be stressed and now they want to clean stuff. They want to clean stuff, but actually not the only way, but one of the ways to produce estrogen is cleaning things, cooking things, doing things that are nurturing. Can be helpful. It's not the best therapy. The best therapy that I'm talking about is communication between men and women. They are mutually understanding their needs. Men need to feel successful. Women need to feel heard, seen, cared for, empathy, consideration, support, and particularly a woman needs to feel that I can ask and I will get.
Mhm. I'm seeing a lot of women now, they call it the high heel effect. I don't know if you heard this term, where as women have gone up in the ranks in their careers, if they've gone up economically, they like to date up or the same. They don't like to settle for less. And so they're finding very difficult to find a man that also has gone up economically in the career, because more women are in college, more women are, have college degrees, more doctors, more, more lawyers, all that's coming down the pipeline. So a lot of men are falling through the cracks and women are just not settling. And so they end up not finding a partner.
That's exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. And just statistics wise, twice as many women graduate from college as men. So, so you just narrowed the lens of how many men are available to you. So where are the good men? Well, they're not college graduates. So let's try to look at it another way. We're not going to change men and put more men in college. And this is not a new thing, the actual root of what you're saying. Women have always, in most cases, be attracted to men who are a level higher. Same, but mainly higher. And of course, higher meant he could be stronger, he's taller, he's protective, he's, be able to go out and hunt. He's a confident man, more confident than her. Confidence is a key thing. The number one turn on for women is a man who's confident. If you're confident, you never have negative emotions. I rarely have negative emotions because I have confidence. Everything is, if a problem, okay, I know what to do to solve it. And my wife's upset. I know what to do to solve it. No big deal. She's upset. And she said, the only complaint she has is, why aren't you getting angry at me? I said, honey, I love you. I love you. You're fine. I hear what you're saying. And I help her understand what she's saying. Because I know that if women feel safe, they can only love you. It's just kind of like, go ahead.
Yeah, with this younger generation, we're seeing higher rates of depression and anxiety than previous generations. And a lot of it, they're getting lost in video games. They're getting lost in porn. I mean, they were given a smartphone at the age of 10. And I mean, this younger generation, I definitely feel, some sympathy for because of the challenges that they've had versus the baby boomer generation and their approach to love and dating and marriage. I mean, we've flipped the script and made it very challenging for the, Generation Z, especially.
Yeah, this is, who are they? Who are they who did this? It's the school indoctrinations. What you see is the colleges are all teaching men and women aren't the same. I was kicked out of Stanford and kicked out of Harvard because I talked about men and women are different. They were my biggest obstacle. The education is trying to neutralize the attraction between men and women. It's the breakdown of society. There are evil people in this world. They're people who acted out logically. Oh, see, if they've never experienced how men are wonderful and women are wonderful, then they can accept that men and women are different. But so many people started getting divorces and children growing up without parents, as I mentioned before. Nobody knows how wonderful. What was that?
The division that's always in the news and just like,
all we get is division and news. Then we have identity politics, which is complete nonsense.
Misogyny, misandry.
Oh, yes, all those things. This is like feeding it into people. Cannot trust. And here's an interesting statistic right now. I believe in a higher power. Okay. I know I have a higher power. I work with it all the time. We can call it angels, you can call it God, call it whatever.
Universe.
Yeah, the universe is a very common thing. The universe is communicating me all the time. Whenever I see a 111 on my phone, or 1111, I immediately look at what was I just thinking. That's the universe telling me whatever I'm thinking is the right alignment. This is what was called signs in the past. Now we have digital clocks. You can just see if your birthday shows up on the clock, your mind goes and looks at it. Then you kind of, oh, this, whatever I'm thinking right now must be I'm in the right direction. So we need reassurance. We always need reassurance as human beings. When I give a talk, I feel so good when people clap. I feel even better when people stand up and clap. It's getting that reassurance. And if I don't get a standing ovation, I say, now, if you really, really like this, let's make it a little louder. And if you really, really like it, stand up. And they stand up, giving them permission to do it. Why not ask for it?
Mhm.
We have to get over this hump that for something to be real from our partner, we shouldn't have to ask. Women have this big problem, which is typically, if he loves me, he'll do it automatically. That's
Read my
because women,
mind. Mhm.
yeah, it's just and women think, well, I do things all the time because I love you. And for men, it's, do I have to do this? Is it necessary? So usually in the beginning of a marriage, men are saying, I love you, I love you. And women are feeling, oh, do you love me? And all that vulnerability is there. And then if you want to bring back the feelings of the early stages, go back to who you were in the early stages, which is a bit insecure, needing reassurance that I'm loved, that I'm beautiful, you like me, you're happy to be with me. And he says each time, yes, yes, yes. And the magic of this is if she says it, she'll have to let it in because she opened the gate. And when he says it, he will defend it and he will start to feel that all day long. So that's what keeps my lug bag full, but it's also making love. When we need to be recharged. I'm a radiant being. My energy is going out all the time. It gets drained. And the thing that recharges me, I have lots of things, but the most powerful is love. And it's the love I have for my wife and the love that she reciprocates back, which she can fully feel in that intimate moment. Think about masculine and feminine. So many people today want to have attraction in their male-female relationships. They don't have that strong attraction. They just don't have it. And the reason they don't have it is what creates attraction. If you think of two magnets, and these two magnets are here, one's a positive pole, one's a negative pole. And when they get close, let's say have a conversation, or let's say they get naked in bed, it's like a click. When magnets click, they click. And once they've clicked, which could be like orgasm, it doesn't have to be orgasm. When they click, then the polarity depolarizes. That's why men will tend to roll over in bed afterwards, and he'll be a little detached for a while, in many cases after a few
Mhm.
years of marriage. So it's
Yes.
pretty accepted. Not every person, but pretty much. It's like in the 60s, in the movies, he rolls over and has a cigarette,
Right,
kind of
right.
drunk. But it's that natural tendency to pull away. And I explained that because when a man ejaculates, there's so much estrogen that gets produced in his body, it overshadows his testosterone, so he can't perform for a while. So it knocks it down. So that's why he needs to pull away. When men pull away, when they detach from the connection, it's not, they don't have to be angry at you. They just, it could be they're angry, they need to detach. It could be that they feel really, really close to you and they love you so much, but too much estrogen pushes his testosterone down. So now he needs to detach in order to rebuild his testosterone. One of the big testosterone producers is feeling detached. Okay. Hey, I'm okay. I'm fine. No big deal. That was the Buddha's teaching, learn to forget all your problems, go into meditation. I'm really good at understanding this because I had my years as a monk. I meditate every day. I understand how negativity doesn't come in my being because I can recharge myself in deep meditation.
Right.
But that's very different from being able to recharge yourself with a woman. I'm just talking. I was enlightened at 28 years old. I walked around, I had big teaching, all that stuff. And I was never unhappy. But then you get into a marriage and you have sex. Then what happens to these quote gurus and happy people is their unresolved issues from childhood start to come up. See, it's meditation to a great extent is denying the lower and going higher. And that's good. Connect with your soul and everything. But you still got this body and this life experience where you now have to integrate what's below with what's above. You have to bring the light to the darkness and heal that. Psychology, good therapy knowledge, there's a lot of them, Gestalt, these things, very, very helpful for that. And those are good skills to have. I simplify it all down in my book, but a lot of that happens, particularly is men learning to create a safe space for women just to talk about what they feel. It will generate the right hormones, their stress levels will go down. And then automatically her brain is able to shift from looking at what's wrong to looking at the optimistic side of what's good. You just have to create that shift. And the biology will automatically shift if you do these certain biohacks. And since you're hacking into, like you hack into the computer to control it, these are relationships to hook into your biology and control your hormone balance. And it's not by taking drugs, although I really do like some supplements are really good that just have an effect on the adrenal gland. The ashwagandha is one. Saffron. Now we're looking at huge studies showing that saffron is really, really good. Also takes away food cravings.
Hmm.
Uh, there's something called berberine. Berberine helps to balance the blood sugar because so much of the time when women have bad moods, it's because their blood sugar's crashed. Their blood sugar just crashes instantly without any warning, which is why I tell men if you're traveling with your wife and she says we need food, it's a code blue alert. Get food right away.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I say, okay, we get to the next town, we'll find a restaurant. No, find something now, or at least have something in the
Yeah.
car, because men are designed differently. Again, the more muscle mass you have, the less you'll have these sudden blood sugar drops. But berberine for all of us, because we're all a kind of a sugar society, we have all this diabetes and we have all of this mood swings and everything. Blood sugar is a big part of it. So berberine is a good thing. And the most important thing I've seen for lowering stress, and this is my experience of 24 years, is something that's outlawed around the world. Is perfectly natural. You would never need an antidepressant, in my opinion, and in my experience with people, if you took this very natural supplement that's only legal in America. You can have it in other countries. You just can't sell it. They pharmaceuticals made sure nobody can get it. And this is really true. And it's called lithium orotate. A psychiatrist can prescribe lithium carbonate, and the lithium carbonate, it doesn't do anything unless you give toxic doses of it. Lithium orotate, you get lithium without the toxic doses. And you can find it all over the internet. None of the stores will carry it because they're still controlled a little bit by the powers that be. But the internet has it. It's called lithium orotate. And you just take a very minute dose of it, 5 to 10 milligrams. That's so tiny. What the doctors were prescribing for bipolar, which is mood control, you don't want to go too high, you don't want to go too low. They took 500 times the dose of lithium, because lithium carbonate, if you just mine it out of the ground and give it to people, it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. But lithium orotate is you mine it out of the ground and you process it with mother's milk or cow's milk, and it's called lithium orotate. And that will carry it across the blood-brain barrier. You don't very need much of it. And I've just seen magic wonders with everybody who has up and down moods. If you have up and down moods, you will notice the benefits within days. It's quite profound.
Wow.
And I also, at my website, I carry lithium orotate, but I'm always trying to advance it. So now I've created a lithium orotate with berberine and saffron and ashwagandha. So it kind of like helps the stress level, so the brain can make a balance of dopamine and serotonin. That's, bipolar is when you get really excited and then you crash. And then you get really excited and you crash, or one or the other, you get stuck there. And that's why lithium fixed that. Lithium, you don't need much. It just needs to be there to balance the production of dopamine and serotonin. So that's available to people at marsvenus.com. There's a little button you push. It will take you to Amazon where you can buy it. You can also get other forms, which at other places, they're a little cheaper there, because I have to put in I put in all these other things, but everybody should know about it, and nobody knows about it because they even used to put it on my Wikipedia page. John Gray, not a medical doctor, suggesting that people take lithium. No doctor would ever recommend that. And then people, when they heard that, looking at my page, they realized, well, why are they saying don't do that? So actually sales of lithium went up when they started pushing me down for that. People are smart. They can figure out that what they're telling you should do isn't always going to do good for you.
Right. And not everything on Wikipedia is always factual either. So
that's right. It's highly edited by powers that, what is it? I know what, I don't want to go into that, but so we had the education, we had the higher consciousness. I just want to make sure I can say that this progress, although I am going overtime, I have to enter, but the higher consciousness means males and females can access even more easily their male and female side.
Right.
But what they have to realize is that when you're on one side, if you're unhappy and you're stressed, the problem's not outside. It's not them. The problem is you need to focus on behaviors that will stimulate the hormones of your biological sex, and you'll be so much happier, as opposed to getting stuck in the hormones, because they're addictive. It was addictive for me to be on my female side. It's addictive for women to go on their male. Power is addictive. And but they keep doing it. Now they can't get out of it. So
Yeah.
how to get out of it is through relationships with good communication. And I
Yeah.
do have to run. Lisa, it's
Yeah.
been a pleasure talking with you again.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate the breakdown. And obviously it's fun to look at the different generations, but at the end of the
You're like
day, we're
brilliant.
just, I mean, we're all the same. We're human beings going through and having this experience. So I appreciate all the advice and tidbits you gave us during this this talk.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you all for watching. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you, Dr. Gray.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.